Hello, everyone. This is Han Solo. Yes, I'm flying solo tonight. Well, at least for the first few minutes. Nanette is at graduation. She's with her kids. She's walking some of the kids that she works with, some special needs kids, through graduation. So that is the coolest thing I think in the world. I cannot tell you how much this means to her. I cannot tell you how much it means to me that she's in such a special program. She loves doing what she's doing, and she's committed. Teachers weren't asked to come tonight to this graduation, but because she had 4 or 5 kids that were walking on stage, she wanted to be there for the kids and kind of get them through this. For some of her kids, it's a stressful. Maybe it's stressful, and it's a different situation for them with all the excitement and everything. So I wish her luck and. Um, I hope she's here in just a minute because I might not have anything to talk about. I see Angie's on. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Julie, Angie will make sure that I keep talking about something. You guys, you're the best for showing up tonight. This is going to be a fun show. This is going to be a fun show because we're going to be talking about some things I have no clue about in isopods. We have Kimberly Miller from IsoRare Pods and IsoRare Pods, rare isopods. This is going to be fun. We're going to get into some basics about basic isopods, but we're going to dig a little bit into the more rare isopods in the hobby. And again, this is some areas that I haven't kind of jumped into. Not so much. And they are very, very, very expensive, some of these isopods, but it's more that I don't want to commit a lot of resources to something that, I'm already committed a lot of resources to other things in our facility. And I just don't want to not do them justice. So Kim is going to help us through some of those questions that maybe you guys have and can talk to us about some of these rare isopods. In fact, we have Kim in our background. Let's bring her on. Hi, Kim. How are you doing?
Hi. Good. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good tonight?
A little nervous. I don't usually do these type of things, but you're Wally.
Well, we haven't even gone live tonight. I'm Wally. We haven't even gone live tonight, so I'm not going to go live at all tonight. It's just you and me talking. How does that sound?
Sounds good, but my notifications are blowing up already.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I always start off, and I try to make this a little bit more interesting than how did you get into isopods.
Yeah.
So what I want you to do for us, for our viewers, because I always find it more exciting to know a little bit about the person before we talk about the hobby. Tell us about Kim. What are your favorite things to do? What's special about Kim?
I'm actually quite a boring person, to be honest. I have a lovely family that I adore. My husband Keith, and we have 2 children, Jada and Junior. And Jada's a beautiful young girl. Gosh, she's the one that made me mom. So she holds a special place. And then I've got Junior, who's the wild 2-year-old. He's just crazy. He's sleeping right now, but that's only because we went to the pool and he lost his mind. So it's the first time this year that we've gotten a chance to go swimming. But I love to cook.
Aww.
That's probably the most interesting thing about me is I can cook a good plate. So, and that's my New Yorker in me. I grew up very, very diversified. Like I learned every type of dish, food. I cook a lot of Spanish food. I cook a lot of good food, rice and beans, all sorts of stuff. So,
How cool is that? What got you into culinary? What started you? Have you taken classes?
no, it's actually kind of a growing up. I had to help raise my siblings, so I had to learn at a young age how to cook. And so I kind of just carried it along, and it's how I kind of show my love in a way. It's odd, like I get offended if you don't eat my food. It's weird. I mean, but that's just a me thing. So I always ask my
It's not
husband
a
or
you
daughter.
thing.
Yeah, I'll ask my husband or daughter, like, did you like it? Is it okay? Are you know, if I know if they'll clear the plate, it was great. But if not, that I shouldn't cook it again.
I have a southern background. So the very first time that we took the kids down south to meet some of our relatives, the one important thing that I emphasized to them was when you're offered food, you eat it. You try it, at least try it. And down south, you cannot walk away from any house hungry. It's just
No,
not allowed, not allowed at all. So
we cook so much food here. I'm currently trying to start to learn a little bit of the southern cooking because I'm new here, newer. I've only been here about 3 years. Before this, I was in Indiana for like
ah,
two almost. No, I was in Indiana for about 4. And then I was raised in New York. So I was kind of a nomad for a while till I met my husband. And then he dragged me here, you
now
know.
where are you right now?
We live in South Carolina,
Oh,
but we're
beautiful.
right on the border. Like the border to North Carolina is like a mile.
Nice.
So we're in between
Beautiful,
both
beautiful,
states.
beautiful country.
Yeah.
Beautiful country. If I
Yes.
ever moved, I've always said that the one place that I would move would be the North South Carolina area and maybe Kentucky. But love Wisconsin, so we never had the chance to move.
Well,
Um,
South Carolina has great living costs. Great.
yes, yes, absolutely. Why traveling so much? It sounds like you've traveled a little bit in your life.
Yeah, I decided before I had met like the person I was gonna settle with and have children with, and I was very picky about that. That I would kind of branch out from New York and learn different things. And I just landed in Indianapolis and worked for Liberty Mutual for years and then met him.
Ah,
Yep.
very cool. Very cool. Um, Anthony is asking a question, and we're going to talk a little bit about some basics with isopods, and we're going to talk more detailed information, especially rare isopods. So, Anthony, I have starred your comment. If anybody has as a question, I should say, if anybody has a question, add your question. I'm following the chat, so if I'm looking around a little bit, that's why. Ask your questions, and if we can, we'll grab them right away. If it's something that we'll probably talk about a little bit later in the show, we'll star them and bring them up in a little bit, if that sounds good. Why isopods? Why in the world did you start keeping isopods?
You know, my husband asks me that all the time. Um, I started with reptiles and exotics. So I had, I over the years had kept African greys I rescued and rehabilitated, and me and him, he was petrified of snakes, so we went to an expo one time and walked home with a snake, and so we've always just kind of, I have always had a love for reptiles. And what happened was is that opened the door to the bioactive world, and then that opened the door to isopods. And I have a thing for living things, living creatures, and I was just enamored. I just I couldn't stop once I started.
Was it,
Terrible.
do you think that it was a Pokemon kind of thing, got to catch them all, or do you think that it was, I want to learn more about this species or that species or whatever?
I at first I will say that it was kind of like a Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all type of thing, but I slowly realized really fast that space is limited and you have to kind
Oh,
of pick and choose what you want to do. So at one point last year, I'd gotten like way too many different pods and kind of downsized all my mids, low ends to make room for bigger projects.
The big
So
stuff.
yeah, yeah. And I have people that come to me all the time with rare pods no one's ever even heard about. And they say, "Hey, do you want some? You want to trade with me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why not?"
Yes, 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 yes. I built our collection, probably the first 60 isopods that we had here in the facility. I would say probably 40 of them came from trades,
Yep.
especially trading animals. Crested geckos at the time were starting to become really super hot. And I know I traded two or three or four pair for different isopods, and it just worked out. So, that's always an option. If you see somebody that has some isopods and you have something different, well, start talking to them. Talk to
Yeah.
them and work up a trade all the time. Um,
I That's exactly what I did. Yep.
at the highest point, how many did you have?
And I'm sorry, I have a cold. We've been battling a cold for over a
Oh,
week
I'm
now.
sorry.
Um at the highest point, I think I might be at my highest point. I'd say between this room and the other, I probably have like 120 bins of just pods, and then I've got probably 20 to 30 bins of millipedes, maybe.
Wow.
I've
That's
started
right now.
that realm.
Okay. Um, why millipedes?
They just, I don't, they're, it's hard to really explain. But you hear about different millipedes that have a harder time breeding, or they're not as readily available, and I'll touch on that part because that's my ultimate push. So I said, okay, well, if they're not readily available, let me find out how I can get them, so I can get them to my people, my community.
That's really interesting. And I want to jump into why keeping rare isopods in just a second, but you mentioned something that's very, very interesting. Looking back when I was starting off, it was, I've got to catch them all, got to have them all. But, after about 20 or 30, it's like, which ones do I really want anymore? And then it was, I really want to focus on these 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 100 by, some point. But a lot of that was to breed them to see if I could be successful, but also to distribute them and get them. We're going back 6 or 7 years ago now to try to get them into other people's hands too. Very, very interesting point. I like that point.
I think that when you're genuinely in it for the hobby, that's what your goal is. Your goal isn't the money, your goal isn't the anything else but to learn something new. Like I'll come in here and pop open a bin and just watch them for hours, and that sounds crazy to some people, but I know they're hot, what they like. Do they like rotting wood? Do they sit on the leaf litter? Do they bury themselves? Like, I know everything about every pod. I know every care about every pod, and I don't have to look at a sheet. I just, it's like an almost like an OCD, I guess you could say. I guess you could say.
No, I don't. I'll speak personally. I don't feel like I have the same involvement with my isopods, and that's why I've scaled down so much in isopods as I do with geckos. When you talk about staring at an enclosure for half hour at a time, I can do that with the geckos. I can watch their behavior and see where they're hanging out, how they interact together. It's a fascination, absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, it is. It is. And to figure out what makes them click. Um, like my rubber ducky pill millipedes that no one's been able to breed. I sat them in a deli cup and I watched them for 2 weeks while I packed boxes, while I did other bin maintenance, while I did other stuff. They would just be in that 8-ounce deli cup and I would just be watching them because I wanted to learn everything about them before I created a bin for them. So I just like to find out what makes them tick. I don't know. It's very, very weird to me when I think about it, because everybody in my life, like family wise, they're like, oh my gosh, bugs? How could you?
Do
But,
you go ahead? Sorry.
well, I was just going to say, but growing up, like my father, we used to go to Quebec on family trips, and I used to fill up paddle boats with tadpoles. So, like to my family, they know it's not weird because they know I've always loved bugs and random weird stuff. But to like my husband, he's just like, why? Why?
I find it interesting too when I mentioned that, that a lot of our family and friends know that we do geckos, but when I start talking about isopods, it's like, what?
Yeah, they do
Why
what with?
isopods? I don't get it. Well, they're fun, little cute, and like, they do in small places. Yeah. I still don't get it.
That's what my dad said. He's like a New Yorker, 100%, and I love him dearly. But he was just like, Kim, I don't know what you're talking about. He's
That
like, they
sounds
do
creative.
what? They just look at them? I'm like, you know what, Dad? Just, it's okay.
So I can hear that. You're keeping isopods? Forget about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I used to have an
Outstanding.
accent, very heavy accent, but living in different places, no one could understand me. So I very quickly changed that.
Um, when you, yeah, I do it down south. When we go down south, I'm saying you all like within an hour. Um,
Hmm.
when you, I'm kind of debating between two different questions here. Um, so you're saying that you know a lot about these different isopods and you watch them very, very closely. And I'm relating this to me bringing in geckos. If I bring in a gecko, I try to do the research and everything, ask the right questions, but I also try to apply logic from nature, and I also try to involve similar species or species within the genus. Um, do you do the same thing when you're thinking about bringing in a certain isopod? Does your mind work like that too? Do you start the research and then do you say, okay, it should act like this, it should like this kind of a setup? Is that how you go through your process?
I would say a good 80% of them, yes. There are those one offs where I pull a trigger on something and I have no clue what I'm getting in, but that's like the exciting part of it. Um, but like pill millipedes, I did probably a week's worth of research every single day, looking up like forest floor composition and talking to. I have, when I tell you, I am so blessed by the people that are surrounding me because
Uh,
I have some of the best. They were customers. I don't know what to call them now. Buddies. I don't know. But I'll go to like one of them and say, "Hey, man, do you know what this is?" And he'll be like, "No, but I'm really curious too." And he'll look through it too, and then we'll bounce ideas off of each other. And um, like pill millipedes, I looked into where are they from? What do they like?
yes.
What's what's their what's it like on the forest floor? It's pitch dark in most places, and it's cool. So you have to kind of on certain things that you're going to have troubles with breeding. I definitely deep dive way before they even come to my door. Yes.
Good, good, good.
Yep.
I'm going to before, and I'm going to get way more in depth in the rare isopods. We're going to talk to, and Anthony, I got your question. I started. We'll come back to that when we start talking about the rare animals. Let's jump all the way back to the beginning of working with basic isopods. You're working with basic isopods, you get an understanding, you're taking that next step to medium skill isopods, and then you're into the rear. But in the beginning, you're doing some things with your isopod setups. Give us a couple of things, and it might not be you, it might be, yeah, Wally's video is completely wrong. Tell us tell us a couple of things that you look back at that you did or somebody else does or the hobby does in general right now that you go, Yeah, I don't do that, and it works
Mm-mm.
for me to do it this way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're gonna get really we're gonna get into it here.
And I'm going to say, I'm going to give you an example real quick. One of the things that I don't know if it bugs me, but I just kind of shake my head at is I see a lot of people going on Isopod forums and saying, "Can I feed them this? Can I feed them that?" I built up a list. I was going to do a video on this one time. I think I had about 100 different foods people leaves, folks, leaves, and give them some protein and give them, a couple of other food, flake, unless I'm wrong, and tell me if I'm wrong, but they don't need a variety of 100 foods to survive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. So that's probably one of them. I get people that message me all the time for questions regarding why are my pods dying, and they'll send me a setup, and it's either in a Tupperware container with 20 pods in there.
Oh,
So you can't get a gradient. It's going to be one temp, whatever you choose, one humidity, whatever you choose. You're not gonna. It's very hard to create anything other than you spray in there once, it's sopping wet. Um, so people will send me pictures of their bins, and it's just soil. That you, my bins, like when you open up my bins, some of them are rough because I only refresh them every so often, but most of them look like a piece of nature, like from the outdoors. Um, and so yes, they eat like lichen. I get the sticks, the lichen sticks, um, and then the leaves, rotting wood. So really, you don't even need to feed them, but maybe once every couple weeks. I feed mine more than that because I'm producing and breeding.
right, right, right.
But the average folk just needs to literally give them what nature would give them and then give them a treat every now and again.
Obviously, except for those people feeding the Supreme Isopod chow, of course. No, Kim, I am 1,000% right with you. We feed once a week and it works for us. I'm not saying that you guys should be feeding once a week, and nor are you saying that either. You're saying you're feeding more than once a week, but your goal is to produce more babies. Um, we can relate this to just about anything. If you want to keep your crickets healthy, feed them some fish food and some water gels, and you'll be fine. If you want to feed good, healthy crickets to your geckos or reptiles, you've got to incorporate more nutritious foods and things like that. And that's exactly what you're saying. So,
Yeah, my feeding regimen is actually very simple. I feed mine bee pollen, and then I actually got is another one of my amazing customers slash I don't know friend, like friend in between type of thing. But she runs Artho Yums, and she's on Etsy, and I feed them that. I've added some organic spirulina powder
oh
to
yeah,
that
yeah.
to enhance coloration, but um, bee pollen granules are like you will have rock hard, solid isopods, healthy isopods off just bee pollen granules.
What about? I'm diving a little bit into details here. Calcium. What do you do for calcium?
I do, so it depends. All of my Spanish species, I give them aragonite sand, like the coarse kind, and I do like a quarter of the bin. I do just full of the sand. And then sometimes if they're like a protein heavy, calcium heavy species, I'll give them like a piece of um, like a sea urchin shell, or I'm trying to get away from cuttle bones because of controversy behind those, but I had a bulk amount of them. So they do need calcium. I do believe they do. They definitely eat. Some of my species will go through cuttle bone in a week. It's crazy. So The aragonite sand I really, really like, and I've really started to incorporate that more into my setups. And I've noticed that they seem to not have as many shedding issues from what I can tell, like some of my difficult ones. So
Is
I've kind of stuck to that.
do you suggest a mix level like 10% or 5%, or you know what do you understand
It,
what I'm asking?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's about a quarter of the bin for my Spanish species. The other ones, I just do like one corner of the bin. I
Okay.
just pour this aragonite sand right in there, and sometimes I'll mix it in the soil. Sometimes I make it in my soil mix, but a lot of the times I leave it out because I want to add as much as I want to certain bins, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. We do have a question specific here to what you just mentioned. Um, Darlene is asking, how often do you give bee pollen? And Julie is asking, what kind of bee pollen?
These gnats are driving me nuts.
A true
I
Isopod keeper.
Yeah, yeah, you'll never get rid of them. I don't care what anyone says.
No.
Um, I feed so I'm I'm lucky as in I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I'm in here almost every single day, opening bins, messing with them, looking at them. So whenever I notice that they have eaten or depleted their bee pollen, most of the time when you get pods, they're not going to just eat bee pollen. You have to starve them out a little bit and then give it to them. And then they'll be like, oh, there's different treats in here. You know, I don't have to eat
Ah,
leaves tonight. And then they'll eat them.
yes.
So I had to do that for someone told me that once, and I kind of chuckled because I'm like, yeah, that would make sense because no one's touching the bee pollen right now. But ever since I started giving bee pollen, I get mine off Etsy. I post his link all the time. He's in New Jersey, but he has his own bee colonies, and his bees he
Move this
collects
stuff
it.
around here.
So um,
Oh, nice. Nice.
I make sure I support small.
Yeah. Well, Nanette, it's about time you joined us tonight.
Sorry, graduation's over.
Everything went okay?
And
Yeah. Hi.
Nanette, Kim,
Hi.
hello.
you mentioned what kind, the Etsy. If you send me a link, I'll go ahead and add it to the description of this
Yeah.
video whenever you have time. Angie had a question. I'm going to come back to it. Okay, Angie, how long does it take you to feed all of your pods?
Days.
Days.
I actually I kind of come in. I don't even understand how I do it. My husband even told me that once. I don't understand how you do it, but I kind of come in and start in one side of the room and then kind of work my way around through the week. So it takes me, because I have a 2-year-old who's a stage 5 clinger. It takes me a little bit to do it, but I would say Tuesdays are a full-on pack day, and then whatever pods I pull, I feed. So that helps. And then, like, usually I'll get in here on Thursdays and Fridays and feed them. Weekends I try to stay out of here, but that doesn't always work.
It's interesting for me because I have certain times over the weekend that it's devoted to the animals, and it's my 2 or 3 or 4 hours of just full dedication to the animals. No social media, no nothing. It's just me in touch with the animals. So that's pretty cool that you're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I touched on this, but I'm going to ask it kind of again, and maybe in a different way, or maybe you can come up with another idea. Another basic that people are doing with their Isopod bins or their Isopod care that you've answered questions about, and it just seems to pop up all the time where if you could give somebody some advice on this is in social media, it's all over the place to do this, but you shouldn't do it, or here's a better way to do it. Can you think of an example?
Yeah, I have a big one.
Yeah,
as you know, I kind of avoided it, but here we go again.
let's do it. Bring it on.
Ventilation. I don't typically give my pods any ventilation. None.
What?
There are some, so I do go like out of my way to give Spanish species a little bit extra because
Yeah.
they're just known to want that. And then millipedes are the other exception because the cyanide, they release some of them. But like my white tigers, I don't have any ventilation. Zebras, none. Shiros, barely any. Hilarias, none. And the bins that I buy for some of them come with it, like the wide mainstay shoe bins from Walmart. They have like the little holes on the sides. And so I leave those, but I don't add any more to it. My dwarf bins, they don't have any ventilation. I run a fan.
Really?
I run a fan or
Yes.
a couple fans, and then I've got my air exchange in here. And so I've never had an issue. And so the only reason why I don't like touching on it is because everyone has their own personal feelings about it. But I think moving the air around the room is better than stagnant air and having 10 air holes or vents. So I do like my yellow dragons. I just got in. I did get some vents from Hellfire Exotics from Joe for them. And then I've got some Marylandella colonies I need to start bigger bins for. And so I got vents for those because they're a pain in the butt. But outside of that, no, I don't. Cubaris, I can put them in a hole and they would thrive. They don't care. They don't care.
You and Ben Quintana. Sorry, man, I was lost on that his last name. You and Ben Quintana. He mentioned that I had Ben on about a year ago now, and we were talking about ventilation. He goes, "Yeah, I don't do a ventilation." He was like ready to move into another topic, and I'm like, oh, "Time out. Let's stop the show right now and talk about that."
Yeah.
And people realize in this show, I say it almost nauseatingly too much. What works for you, keep doing. Keep an open mind, but everybody has a different environment. Everybody is doing things different. And again, if it works for you, don't flip and change it for anybody. So that's my disclaimer.
I think that's probably why he didn't really want to touch on it because it's so controversial. How much ventilation? Have this ventilation? That, and it's just like, come on, man, you don't even need any. Like my Spanish species I have right above my air exchange on shelving, and so they get a bunch of air pushed up through them all day long. So I probably don't even need vents on them, but I have them on them because I know that they like it. So of course I'm gonna, do it for certain species that want it, but the majority of mine. And if you see, perfect example. This is a Porcelio bin.
Yeah.
No ventilation. They love it. They've thrived.
Kim, did you try no ventilation from somebody's suggestion, or did you try it one time or set up a few bins and it just worked for you? So you went, why do I need to do ventilation?
Yeah, I kind of have like a really in-depth mind. And so one day I was just kind of sitting there and I'm like, man, the air moves around this room a lot. And unless it's a gasketed bin, the air is going to get in there, and that's what's important.
Yeah.
If I didn't have a fan running and then didn't have ventilation, then it would be a problem because your air is stagnant. Just like
Yes.
if you have ventilation right now, but your room there's nothing moving through the room, then those vents are doing you no good. They're doing you no good. They're a waste of money then. And so I just kind of sat there one night and was like, well, this is kind of odd, but I don't really need vents. And so I just kind of recycle through the bins. I do have vents. And if I like move that species into a bigger bin or something, I'll keep them for other species I get in, but I don't go out of my way to buy vents or anything. No.
Okay. It's very interesting. I'm going to say it again. It's different for everybody. If you're not using vents and your humidity level, keeping it in that enclosure better. Now, you might be going in and checking your isopods frequently and getting that exchange. I've
Yeah.
had the question many times, do I need holes in my Gecko incubator boxes? And I tell people, I don't have any in mine. But let me clarify that. I'm in those boxes at least once a week. I open every single Gecko.
Day.
Well, don't say that. Not every day, but I'll open them at least maybe it is every day. I'll open at least once a week and I get that air exchange. So,
Nanette knows.
What's that?
Nanette knows. That's
She
what
does.
it is. I think that's a big part of it. Like, I'm in these bins every other day or so. I'm kind of moving them around. I'm in here, air's moving. My Hilaria, I never go into that bin. Never. Because you're not going to see them. So why go into it?
Yep.
But I never go into that bin, and I have probably 500 Hilaria.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So I don't know. It's the oddest thing sometimes. It is the oddest thing sometimes.
Wow. And Ocean, sorry about that. It's unfortunate. I mean, but you know what? It happens to a lot of people. I'm sorry, I should have shown that a little bit more. It happens to a lot of people. I've had crashes, in one or two bins before, and you just kind of sit back and you go, what happened there? Did I not change out my substrate soon enough? Was it overpopulated? Did I feed too much? The important thing, I think, and I'll address this with Ocean Dizzy for just a second, is that you just have to you go through it. Don't kick yourself down, but think about, what can I change for the future to try to avoid stuff like that.
Yeah, I tell people all the time that that's your biggest learning opportunity is when something doesn't work.
Yes.
Next time, listen, I got to make sure I water that bin, every 4 days or every 5 days,
I'm going to jump onto Derek's question right here, and we do have a lot of starred questions. So people, if you asked questions earlier and you didn't get the question to pop up, I have it starred. We'll get back to it when we start talking about rear geckos. But Derek is asking, do you have any crashes from ammonia buildup as the colony grows without vents?
The only crashes I've had, and I'm only admitting this because we're on Wally's show, the only crashes I've actually had are Marilynella, who just decide that they're going to throw out a beacon to everyone and say, hey, drop dead. And they're gone. So that I've only ever had crashes with my Marilynella. Outside of that, I've never had mass die-offs. No. I think it's because of the amount of times I'm in and out of bins. People are messaging me all the time. Hey, I see it's out of stock, but do you have any? So I'm always going into bins.
That's one of our biggest challenges too, is to kind of keep up with that. What's in stock? What do we have enough to sell, and what don't we?
Panda Kings.
Any information on care of Panda Kings? And hi, Chantel. Talk about Panda Kings.
Panda Kings would live in mud if you let them. I remember last year I had actually picked up a colony locally of Panda Kings, and when I opened it up, it was literally mud, and there were thousands in there. So this person neglected them totally, but it was like they loved it. The oddest thing I had ever seen. Same with the rubber duckies I picked up from them. Hundreds were in there. They loved it, but they were in mud. Panda Kings, I don't have any ventilation on my Panda Kings either. But I keep them pretty wet. They like full moisture. They don't have any dry spots. At all.
Yep. I've got a question here. I'm debating whether to ask that question, but I'm going to hold, Megan, I'm going to hold on to your question for just a second. Kim, can you show us a basic Isopod setup? Is that possible for you to do? I don't want to ask you something that might not be easy for you to do.
No, I'm even like my like the followers I have there, they know I'm an open book. I tell everybody everything. So let me grab it. I'm going to get my flavored margaritas because they're my favorite. They're right here. I don't know
I
how
thought
to
you were going to
flip.
go grab a drink or something. I was like, oh, go ahead. We'll make yourself one.
I
It's
wish.
fine. Just don't get drunk on the show.
So I don't know if you
Oh,
guys
this
can
is
see.
perfect. Thank you.
These are my favorite Spanish species. Look at them. And they have snake skin in here, shed.
I apologize. I didn't catch the name. I'm sorry.
They're Flavomariginatus porcellio.
Oh, sure. Okay.
They're like one of my favorites. But they have a limestone rock in the corner. I should probably do this under the light. And then they have moss, but these are so dry. They like it like extremely dry.
Wow.
Oh, kind of gave them a ride.
Now, I don't see, and I'm not criticizing. Don't take it, and I'm not judging. I'm asking questions from an open-minded standpoint. I don't see a lot of leaves in this enclosure.
Yeah, they don't. These don't really eat them. They don't touch them. There's some over here, like a very small amount, and then there's some underneath that they have kind of crushed with this flat. But when I first started with them, I gave them like a ton of leaf litter, and they never touched it ever. So I've left some in there, but I just make sure that it's not empty.
Do they, from a food standpoint, do they prefer any different foods?
I give these guys bee pollen. They're very heavy on protein. So bee pollen and then a protein mix once a month. They don't touch veggies either.
Interesting. Have you tried different types of vegetables, softer vegetables, harder vegetables? Doesn't matter.
I've done like squash. I've even tried apples, something sweet. Cucumbers that all of them love. They didn't care for them at all.
Turned up their noses on you.
Yeah, I just stopped. I still will give them like a piece of a cucumber every month because I feel like to get the moisture that they might touch it. I don't know. I just don't see it devoured like the others. So those I give like bee pollen and a high protein powder mix from that Artho Yums.
Perfect. Gecko Man is asking, what isopod would you recommend for a bioactive leopard gecko tank?
They're going to be
Frank's suggesting powders and giant.
They're going to be a snack essentially in the long run. So in an hour or two, we have two leopard geckos. I put a powder Oreo crumbles I put in there, and I put the Oreo crumbles in well before I put the leopard gecko in because I think that that's important for them to find their own hiding spots and stuff. Yep. Moisture retreats. Yeah, they always have to have moisture somewhere, somehow. So, yeah.
Perfect. Let's talk about rare isopods. Everybody's been waiting while they get to the rare stuff. We don't want to talk about giant canyons. Come on. Let's talk about rare stuff. What started you in the rare stuff, and what would you consider when you were keeping isopods and you got X isopod? What isopod was that made you think, man, this is a rare one right here? This is it. I'm in the big game now.
Oh gosh, there's so many of those ones. I think that only happened recently. So the Porcellio expanses, Witch's Potion, the ones that are in that photo, the orange colored ones. Those are super, super hard to get. So I had to trade my firstborn, but I didn't mind because he drives me insane. No, I'm kidding. But those were kind of the ones where I was like, okay, this is kind of getting like, this is getting there. But I
Is
don't
this
know if there was one in particular.
is
That's a controversial pod right there.
which one is this?
That's the Troglodilo sp persimmon. So we'll back this up just a little bit. But last year, I got these last summer in July. After that, sunsets came into the horizon. A certain someone said, "Oh, persimmon don't exist." They do exist. So I actually messaged with Benny Cassile, and I don't know if you know what that is, but he's big in the Isopod world, and he does a lot of work with the underneath anatomy of them.
Oh, wow.
And so that was the only way to decide, hey, are these different from sunsets? And so he said to me that they're called endopodites. It's a little tail underneath them at the very bottom where their butt is. In mine, it was way longer than it was in a sunset that he had. And so he said that he was pretty sure that they are definitely persimmon and to leave them as that. Because I said to him, I said, I'm getting a lot of pushback. I have people messaging me about it, asking me or telling me that they don't exist, like I'm dumb, and I know I'm not. So hey, can you give me a little insight into this, since you're well known and people will trust what you say? Can you look at the underneath of this and tell me if it looks like a sunset that you have? And he's great. He was like, absolutely. Plus, these, they dig. So every picture I sent you, they're dirty because they just came out of the dirt. Sunsets do not dig.
I'm going to see if I have another picture here. Bear with me.
Yeah, I think I sent you 2 or 3. That was of a little tiny baby. And then another little tiny baby.
Very cool.
And that one's dirty. It just came out of the dirt. And sunsets don't dig. So we don't even know if it's Troglodilo, because normally they don't dig, but that's what they're labeled as in the Isopod world. But it's frustrating for someone like me who I just love to keep pods, and I really just want to get pods out to people who have not been able to buy them over the years because of the over exacerbated pricing. And it's frustrating for me because I work so hard for the people that I have grown to really, it's turned into family almost. And for someone to come to me and be like, oh, well, this person says they don't exist. Okay, well, they're not God. You know, there's so many pods. Many.
There's so many in it. You know, you can go into anything. We had this when we were keeping fish 30 years ago, 35, 40 years ago. It's this location. Well, no, I'm just saying we as in we in the hobby. Hope I backed up quick enough on that. It was in the, you know, people, oh, that's that location, or the, you know, who knows, unless you're a scientist, unless you're going out in collection areas. And you know, so we've seen it with fish, we're seeing it now with geckos. There's one gecko going back and forth. Make up your flipping mind. But when you reference it, everybody knows what you're talking about, no matter which of the different genuses you reference. You know, it's hard, but it's kind of not. It's kind of not either. If somebody has a question about this one or another one, then just, I guess, keep them both. I don't know.
Yeah, well, what's frustrating, I think, to me the most is being treated like I don't know what I have, or I could potentially be selling them and telling people the wrong species. And for me, that's a big deal. I'm very, 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 very ethical. Anyone that knows me knows, like, when it comes to shipping, when it comes to care, when it comes to anything involving isopods, number one, I want to tell my customers the right thing. And I want to tell the community as much as I can the right thing. So I would never intentionally go, oh, well, this person told me they were persimmon, but I'm not going to figure out if they are or not. That's why I went to Benny. And when Benny said I would leave them as per Simon, because to me they look different, that was it for me. I said, okay, say no more then. And their behaviors are totally different. Totally different. These guys like to live in a swamp, okay? And they like to dig. So it makes no sense that they would be a sunset. They don't have the same behaviors either.
Interesting isopod, though.
Yeah.
I want to ask, Frank has a question here. Let's see if I can get to it. Can you tell us about cure for L'Oreala? L'Oreala?
Loriola. Yeah.
L'Oreala.
So it depends on the one. I kept white skulls for forever. And then I had an issue where I forgot to water them because I had a lot personally going on. And so I ended up losing that colony, but I'm in the works of getting some more to try again. Because I had babies, I had everything. But like my durians, they don't care. They love whatever you do for them. They're like, yes, thank you so much. They don't care. If they're too dry, they don't care. If they're too wet, they don't care. Babies are swimming in puddles on the walls. They're still alive. And I don't know how long they've been there. So it just depends on the actual which one you're talking about, because white skulls are like the ultimate hard difficulty for Loriola. And then you've got durian that are easier. You've got I heard white stripes are easy, but I haven't dug into those yet. I try to get the ones that aren't around.
And if you have sent me a picture, tell me, because I don't know these exact isopods. If you sent me a picture that I can reference, just let me know.
I didn't send durians. I put durians on my page so much because I try to like, hey, these are really easy. If you want a super spiky, like these are it. And so I advertise them so much and put them out there so much. I said, well, let me give them some different photos of something else.
So I'm going to throw it out there for people that probably don't know or are very on the outside like me and haven't kept the spikies. How hard are the spikies? And so let's say that you're talking to Wally Kern, who has, the hardest isopod I have is probably, I don't even know, one of the giant Spanish. Dairy cow. One of the giant Spanish. I'm gonna mute you in a second. One of the giant Spanish. And I say, hey, I really want to keep I want to keep spikies. What would you say to me? Would you say, yeah, Wally, don't? No, you need to do research. Would you say, well, let me tell you what you have to do for spikies to make it work for you?
Yeah, that's what I go through with everyone that asks me. Some people order them, and I obviously can't. They just order them. But I would say, as far as difficulties go, I actually am kind of moving into a realm of if they are too difficult, I don't even want to keep them, sort of thing, because I feel like that makes them more expensive for my customers, and I don't want that. I want everyone to be able to have what I have. I don't want anyone to look at me and go, I could never have that, because I was raised like with nothing. And so it's very important to me so anything I offer is not hard to keep. I do have a few, like when I had white skulls, I would not sell them to anyone. If they're too hard, if you truly, truly want them, I'll sell them to you. But I'm going to give you a full disclaimer, like, hey, these just drop dead. They need a very specific environment. This is exactly what they need. But the problem there is that no care is universal. There's no care universal.
Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. You're done.
It's that's another big thing with the community. I don't believe that anyone should have a universal care guide.
Yeah.
I think that it all depends on where you live, number one.
Yep.
My humidity in my pod room is 55% every day, all day. Sometimes it goes up in the 60s. But I have a lot of customers that live in Arizona where it's like 10%. So your care is going to be totally different than my care. So
1,000%. I would 1,000%.
for me, yeah, for me, I would say, Wally, if you want a super spiky durians, they're so easy.
Do it.
If you forget about them for a couple days, they're fine. They're not going to drop dead on you. I have kept them on a heat pad to get the ambient humidity up in their enclosure. I've kept them off a heat pad. I've put them on a shelf and not watered them for 2 weeks. They really don't care. Like they care, but their care is very low maintenance in comparison to others spikies like white skulls. Shiny gators are another one. Super simple care. They're very prolific. But they're dwarf spikies, so they're not like the super spike.
How many of those spikies are you keeping right now? Just a general number.
The super spikes, I have the durians that are like doing amazing. I have another one that's I have another one that I'm working on. And then I have Shiny Gators, Armageddon, trying to think, make sure. Oh yeah, and I've got the dwarf, I can never say it. The Borneo dwarf ones, the very, very, very tiny ones. But I'm going to be in the next 6 months or so ramping up on my spikies because those have been my favorite to keep. So like the super spiked ones.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Those are Cubans.
Oh, lost the screen.
Cuban spikies.
There we go. I'm back.
Their care, I've noticed, they tend to like it a little on the drier side. I don't really water their bin but every 2 weeks maybe, and that's just to keep the moss a little damp.
I apologize. I was flipping screens. I was lost in my own computer here. Which one is this?
That's a Cuban spiky.
Okay.
Sumo, I can never, ever, ever say their name. I'm horrible at scientific names. If anyone knows me, they know that. I know what it is, but
yeah,
I can't say it.
I'm right there with you with gecko names. I know I'll see it on written. I'll see it in my mind, and then to try to pronounce it, I'll be at a reptile show and somebody will go, "Oh, did you see the blah blah blah?" I'll be like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Well, you have them. You posted a picture 2 weeks ago of them. I don't know what you're talking about.
You have their English regular name?
Here's a picture. And it's like, oh, flipping A. Yes, I know what you're talking. Sorry.
That's the same way that I am. I mean, I think the scientific names are very important, obviously.
Yes.
But I feel like they're important for like the keeping of the bookkeeping part of it.
Yes.
I feel like the general names are fine to use. I don't know why everyone goes into a tizzy over that either. It's kind of weird. Like I could see if you don't know the name, the scientific name, but like, yeah, it's just easier to use Cuban spikies.
Yep. I get called out a lot because I use scientific names for the geckos, and I'm trying very hard now to start using general names, more common names. But I will always do both because there's a lot of common names that will reference multiple different geckos with different care requirements. So I'll always say, oh, the skunk gecko, that's XX, genus and species. So I'll try to keep them both together, but I'm bad with using common names. I generally don't. I'll do everything Latin name. So
yes, Latin. I don't know. I'm just more laid back. I used to get so much pushback though on certain things, and now I've just kind of like, you know what, I don't care.
Yeah.
This is the way I do it. If you don't like it, then I'm sorry. But these are Cuban spikies. I can get you the scientific name. It's very long and complicated, but you know, it's not that I don't know it.
Let's talk about Cubaris.
Yeah,
Give us a number. What's that?
That one that you passed by the photos.
Yeah.
That's a Cubaris. That.
There we go. Give us a number. Give us a number. How many different Cubaris do you have right now? Just as a reference. It's not like, you know, I have a 14,000 Cubaris. It's more like to give everybody, you know, our viewers, our listeners, kind of a reference of how many you have.
So Cubaris, I probably have 20, give or take 20 different colonies of them. Same with Porcellio. And then I've got Armadillidium, which kind of took a back seat, but now I'm sort of getting into the rare ones. But Cubaris are my favorite too. All of them are my favorite, but Cubaris are. But this one is a new to the hobby one. I've had it for a while. I just kind of let it breed up. And so now I have hundreds and hundreds of babies in there.
Wow.
Yep, limestone rocks are great. Yeah, they will love you for limestone. Limestone's another, it gives them minerals and it gives them the calcium sometimes they can chew off. Mine love limestone rocks.
But I heard that Cubaris all come from caves and you have to do bat guano with them.
What?
Are you turning off the video right now?
This is bat guano.
Oh my gosh.
I've had this for like a year and I don't even use it. It's gross. It stinks.
I know. It stinks.
I mean, when I ordered some, what do they call them? Microbes, my type mixture thing.
Yeah.
They sent that with it, and I'm like, eh.
What am I going to do this?
Makes your bins smell like you know what. So I just didn't use it. I think it's gross. I'm sure it has some sort of properties in it, but we're talking about very dry bat guano in that bag. So I don't know what they could pull out of it.
Frank's saying that's not bat guano, but we're going to just move right past that statement.
Yeah.
So give us Cubaris. Give us two beginner Cubaris. If you want to get into Cubaris, you should start with these two. Then give us two. Okay, now that you've successfully kept these two Cubaris, if you want to move forward, keep these two. And then finally, you know, you shouldn't touch these two unless you really know what you're doing. So two beginner, two intermediate, and two at the very top of care difficulty.
So two beginners, I would say, would be like...
how about those mud isopods that you were talking about before?
Panda Kings. Yep. Panda Kings would be one. And then I have pink papayas. Those are super simple too. So those would be like... Cool. Those would be like an entry level, hey, I want to start keeping something a little bit more than just your powders.
I got some from Stephanie and I love them. They're the coolest. Just a beautiful animal. Very, very, very cool. So yeah, two good ones. I'm sorry, you're saying Panda Kings, the pinkish Panda Kings, obviously Murina. Papayas are really super cool. How about two intermediate ones? What do you think about intermediate?
I would say intermediate would be like bumblebees. I really, really love bumblebees.
Oh, yeah.
Bumblebees and snowbees. Those are kind of intermediate. They're more money. But they like it a little bit more damp than just a papaya does. And then you obviously want to give them a little dry area too. High ends, you know, I'm trying to sit here and think. I have some really difficult like Cubaris. So I've been isolating Cubaris, red edge, white phase, albino, but it's going to be a pink phase, so they look pink. So
Ooh.
it's the original Cubaris, red edge, white phase, albino. They're very, very slow breeders.
Yes.
They breed like snails. But they haven't been as like hardy, I guess you could say. And it's very odd because regular red edge pods have been just fine. So I don't know if it's the mutation or what in them, but I've been isolating those for about 8 months, and they're finally fully producing like pink tinted babies, fully pink now. So those would probably be they're not really a higher end, but their care is a little bit tricky.
It's the next level up.
Yeah, like as far as difficulty and cares go.
Yeah.
And then I would say, which one was I thinking about? Rubber duckies are easy. Rubber bees are easy. The ones I showed you on the screen, those are semi-easy. Dachshund, now Cubaris Dachshund, the really rarer ones, those are very much like rubber duckies. They really like super damp conditions. Hi. So, if you don't keep them damp enough, though, they don't reproduce.
Ah, interesting.
So there are some quirks to some. I wouldn't say that there's a Cubaris that's like super difficult to keep, though. Cappuccinos have put me through it. You know, I have pack chongs. I can't keep pack chongs for the life of me. I've tried 6
Really
different times.
interesting.
They're on a heat pad now because I kind of gave up on what they're. I don't know. I've tried 6 different colonies, 6 different people. They just hate me. They're like my art. Everyone has that one pod that just is like,
Yeah,
just dies. That's mine.
completely agree.
But for someone else, it might be, you know, they may be their best producers. So it's kind of hard to. I think it depends on location. It depends on humidity. It depends on a lot of different things as far as care goes. I have red tigers. Yeah, mine are actually producing all right now, but they did give me, you know what, in the beginning. So it just all depends on. I really, really, really try to stress care. Care is not universal, and I can't stress that enough. I can tell you that you need to keep them high humidity, but you need to tell me how humid is your home. What
Yes.
state do you live in? I can't just say that this is the way that you care for them because it's a Cubaris, you know. There's a lot of different factors that go into that people don't realize.
So maybe what people should do is like buy, 10 sets of 10 of these more difficult ones and set them up 10 different ways and just kind of vary the different.
10 ways.
I know I'm being so facetious.
Well,
It's a joke. I wish we could do that. Seriously,
listen,
though,
broke.
I wish we could, as a community, I wish we could, and we can't do it individually. We have to do it as a community. You take this isopod, I take this isopod, Stephanie takes this isopod, Frank the Tank takes this, and we're going to do 10 of them. And I'm going to do 10, and you're going to do 10. And Stephanie's going to do pack chongs because she's doing really well with pack chongs. And I'm going to do Murina because and set them up, seriously though, set up 10 different and see which environment they do best in. Keep them all, that would be a fun experiment.
So you're kind of going into a little bit of a topic that's kind of sour to me right now. And everybody knows me, knows I'm very vulnerable. I've always been that type of way. I've always been that person. I can't be anybody that I'm not.
Yep.
this hobby has so much gatekeeping. It's insane. If you go look at my page, I'm not a part of any groups. I'm a part of one group. I was a part of another group up until recently. And the amount of times I've reached out to high-end producers to ask, hey, I have this pod and I noticed you've had it before and I noticed it's on your site. How do you care for it? Well, that's on my site, how you care for it. You go to their site and it says high humidity, give them limestone to let them produce more. And that is probably the thing that bothers me the most, is the gatekeeping, the small grouping of people. And then if you don't have the pods, or if you have too many pods, if they don't like that you have certain pods, you can be outcasted for just that alone. And so for me, I've learned all on my own, essentially. I've had some help from Steph. I love you, Steph. I miss you, Steph. Please message me. I love you. Please. Outside of that, I've learned a lot on my own.
Yep.
And so for me, I know exactly how to care for these, like, no problems. And I almost like the fact that I've been on my own, because I can say, like, I did this myself. I've had some help on the way. I can't lie. I've had, Eric, who's been great as far as resources go. I've had a couple other buddies who've been great as far as resources go and how to care for something. And if I didn't have those people, I really don't know where I would have been. But, it's just a very touchy subject for me, because, the gatekeeping is just insane.
Well, it's again, we could be talking about horses, we could be talking about tropical fish, we could be talking about geckos. I had the same exact conversation actually like two or 3 days ago. And I was talking to somebody back and forth, and he asked, Wally, do you think that people gatekeep so that there's not more produced of this species? And I went, I guess I never thought about it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of on the gullible side. I'm on the naive side. I want to think that everybody shares. And I tell you what, though, Kim, I've gotten to the point, now I'm not going to change. I don't care. I don't care if people gatekeep, and I don't care if they feel like I share too much information. I don't care. And I know you're the same way. If I can share information that will help you keep an animal, I don't care if it affects my sales. I don't care if it affects, the market. Then we should do something. If it's a cool animal, even if it's not, if it's a common house gecko and you're having problems keeping your common house gecko, I'm sharing information so that we can grow as a community and you can grow as a keeper. So, and people that don't understand that, and people that do the gatekeeping and don't share, I don't care. I'm moving on. I have too much worries to worry about without worrying about them. There's nothing I can do about them anyway. So,
and you hit the nail on the head. I gave up a long time ago on trying to change any of it. I just kind of said, listen, I'm going to do what I love to do. The people that follow me and the people that want to learn about these species and everything they could possibly learn about them before they own them, they know where to find me, even if they don't buy them from me. My thing is I don't ever want a customer to get a pod that they have no clue how to take care of, because you're spending $200, $300, $400 sometimes. And I would feel like a horrible person if I laid down at night and your colony crashed because I didn't give you enough information. And so I do feel like, though, a lot of the gatekeeping is to hold the market on certain pods. I really, truly do.
Yeah. And I guess we would be naive. I'm naive, thinking that that's not done with isopods or geckos or horses or fish. But again, there's probably nothing we can do about that at all. It's unfortunate, but we certainly can't call out people and say, oh, you're gatekeeping, share your information, because they'll say, damn, no, I'm not. I just move on.
Yeah.
It's too much
That's
trouble to worry
what I
about that.
decided at the beginning of this year, that I was just going to leave the last year in the past and move on. And that's
There you go.
exactly what I've done. And I'm just excited because I can bring certain pods that people have never had access to them. And so this year, by the end of the year, is going to be. I thought I had, the top of the line now, but I want to make it to where people can really access these without having to worry about paying a mortgage, you know.
Do you feel like excuse me, do you feel like some of the species are coming down a little bit to more manageable, financial figures?
So I do. I think a lot of it has to do with the market is kind of like averaging, I guess, out.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, COVID, everyone had money. People were
Yes.
charging the yin yang for pods, and then all of a sudden that money went away. And so they flooded the market with auctions. Let me auction everything I can off because I need the sales. Let me auction, auction, auction. And so it kind of flooded everyone with pods, and it dropped the value of these pods. And then instead of reevaluating that in some people's minds, they blame like the smaller sellers because we don't sell them at a certain price or whatever the case is, that they, instead of going, you know what, I flooded the market, it is what it is. No one's going to pay $100 for cappuccinos anymore because they've been 100 for 100 for the last year. And so that's the issue right now. I feel like I've been slammed since the beginning of this year. I have not had a break, literally. I think the week before last, when the whole house was sick, was the first week where I said, you know what, you guys, I cannot ship this week. I am so sorry. And I hate breaking that to my customers because I absolutely try to do what I say I'm going to do.
Yep.
And get them out that week. But I haven't stopped. I mean, and it's been a great experience, but I am a one-man team. My husband won't come near these. So yeah. He's like, what are those? I can't even see those.
I think it's a case of, I don't know. It feels like to me that, I'm going to relate it to crested geckos. The crested gecko market took off because there were so many other morphs and things people wanted to collect, and you can make this and you can make that. And it jumped. I can't even reach that high. It jumped up there, and now it's come back down to normal. And I kind of feel that isopods are the same way, but different in that they're still these wonderful, wonderful species, and they'll always be high priced because they're not the easiest to keep and breed, and they don't breed that quickly. They're not Cubaris, Murina. They're not going to ever be that available to be distributed so much. So it's going to fluctuate a little bit, but I don't know. I think you have to find I think here's my feeling. My feeling is that you find the animals that you like to keep and you're happy with them and kind of ride the market with whatever happens. I mean, we can't control the market. There's no way we can control the market unless you're a big breeder. But I know with, like geckos, crested geckos, we kind of ride that out and do the ones that we want to work with. I can care less about the market. I'm doing the animals that I care about. So I guess I'm going to get off the soapbox right now, but do the things that you love to do and don't worry so much about the market,
Yep. That's exactly what I do. And I base my pricing around, did I trade for these? Did I come out of pocket for these? What do I have into them? And then when I have those first broods of babies, I try to split that price amongst those broods. And that's how I keep my pricing down. I have had tons and tons and tons of people come to me for different types of pods and different types of species that are waitlisted for the entire year. Like I have
Yeah.
babies
Yeah.
that have been reserved before they're even here.
Yep.
So, that's how much the people that buy from me trust me. And so I take that with when I'm reserved out for the year, unlike Magnifica roaches, I'm reserved out for the year. Durians, I'm almost reserved. I'm reserved about halfway through the year for those. I know I'm doing something right. That's how I know. So yeah, I I think market just all depends on what you put into it. I don't even honestly, I don't really go off of market pricing. It's all what I get it for if I trade or not.
I've got a question from Anthony. We're kind of talking about market and we're talking business a little bit. Not, it's not all about business. It's more about the animals. Um, I love this question. Do you ever, and I love it because I have an answer. I'm going to let you answer first, but I have an answer on this one too. Do you ever get frustrated with your customers? I think it's a loaded question because we all have situations where we get frustrated. You get
It's a
frustrated as a
very
customer?
it's a very loaded question. I'm going to
It
tell
is.
you why right now. That's because that's probably Anthony, and I had an issue with him over the last couple weeks. That's why that's a loaded question.
Well, we're not
Um,
going to go there. We're going to use this
yeah,
question as a general
yeah.
question.
No,
You
I'm
you
just saying
you and
that's
Anthony can put on the gloves and duke it out.
absolutely. But I'm just letting you know that's where that question came
Gotcha,
from.
gotcha.
I think that there are a few here and there that can frustrate you in certain different ways.
Yeah.
Um, I have a big issue when people don't appreciate things. Like if I sell you free pods, or I sell you, I'm sorry. If I send you free pods and then I feel like it's not appreciated by certain things that are said after the fact, then that frustrates me. But as far as like, I don't have issues with shipping complaints. The only shipping complaints I've had has been post office lately. They've been driving me nuts. Um, but I don't really have any issues at all with anyone that I've worked with outside of a few sprinkles here and there.
Um, I'll share mine. I was talking to a good friend recently about this, about the interaction between customers, and you know, it's all communication. I get frustrated with the communication. If I'm not communicating what I want to communicate to the person, or they're not communicating to me. I learned this a long time ago. If you're like 2 or 3 emails back and forth, stop flipping emailing. Stop. Call the person. Get on something like this because you can read the intent a lot better. 2 or 3 emails, and if you're just frustrated with the conversation and the communication, just stop. Especially if it involves, you're not going to call somebody for a springtail order. I don't care.
No.
Here's another springtail. But if you're
Yeah.
talking 2, 3, 4, 5, a couple $1,000, get on the phone. It's not worth emailing anymore. Stop it. You've emailed 2 or 3 times. Stop and call the person and work it out. That's my feeling. And if you're frustrated with a customer or you're frustrated with a seller, call them up and try to be professional about it as much as you can and come to a conclusion that way. That's my feeling about that.
Yeah, I think for me it's sometimes hard because of my background, I am a very direct person. So I'm not going to be out in public talking bad about you. I'm
Yep.
not going to put a post up. I'm exactly like you are, Wally. I'm not going to put a post up and talk junk under your stuff. I'm going to message you. But when I feel like I'm done with the situation, then I'm not going to address it anymore. If I don't owe you anything, I don't, and I feel like, just like with customers. So, right, customers choose to order from you, right? But
Yep.
if you have a bad experience with a customer, you can choose not to ever sell to them too.
Yep.
And for me, it's like I love what I do, and I love the people that I do it for, so much so that I'm not going to allow like any type of situation. You know what I mean? Like I I absolutely love what I do, and I will bend over backwards for someone. But the moment I feel unappreciated, then that's when it all stops.
Hold on
Yeah, I
just
love Gambit.
sorry, I'm getting lost again in my comments. I had a good question here. Oh, here it is. Sorry, Ocean, you asked this a little bit ago and I didn't get to it. Maybe this isn't the question that you're asking. Sorry, I am lost. Kim, I'm lost. Okay, I'm excited about spiky roly-polies. Are they harder to take care of? Do they still need limestone? I think we might have kind of...
None of them need limestone, so
Okay.
none of them require it. It's you're in Texas. I just saw another. I think that was from the same person that they commented.
Yes.
They're in Texas.
Good catch.
You have limestone everywhere. You have limestone everywhere. That's where I actually source my limestone, and I source lava rocks now too. So that's a new one I've gotten into. I give my pods lava rocks.
Nice.
So they don't need limestone. And they're not all of them are hard to take care of. You just have to find someone that breeds them and will be blatantly honest with you. That's all. If they're hard, some people won't even tell you. They just want your money.
You know, and again, I feel like we've said this over and over again in this show, but talk to the breeder. And if you feel like you're not getting all the information, walk away and find another breeder.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it as simple as that. If you feel comfortable with that breeder in that you're asking the questions or answering the questions, and you feel that you can say, I'm sorry, I'm not ready to buy right now, but I might be in the future, and they would be comfortable with that, stay with them forever, because that's a good breeder.
And
I feel like I'm just standing on this soapbox the whole show. I'm sorry, folks. We're going to start talking more about isopods now.
I can't stress that enough, what you just said, though. If you find a good breeder, stick with them, because I'm telling you, I will go above and beyond for my customers. If you want a pod I don't have, I will go find it. That is the type of person and breeder I am, especially if I've gotten more like more than one question on them.
Yeah, yes. A+.
Scarlets. Scarlets are I have gone to only shipping them in winter. Or the winterish months. So like November through February. Then I cut it off because they're so sensitive to ship. They need a breeding break. They're already a sensitive species. So like I was just joking with my husband earlier, and I said, it's literally like they send out a beacon and go, okay, everyone die, and they die. So, and I have 2 separate colonies of scarlets because I wanted to make sure that I separated them out and made sure that if one thing happened to one, I wasn't like, the other one wasn't going to crash too. Yes. So I had one that crashed, did nothing wrong. I kept it the same for an entire year. No idea what happened. So now I have one colony of scarlets that are on, I put them on a breeding break because I just said, you know what? I don't want to lose this colony now. And it's nothing I did. So I don't know what happened. I have no idea. No idea. And so for me, it's hard because I almost want to not keep Marulinella, but everybody loves them so much. And so like I have ember bees, I have pink lambos now. I have black holes, lavas. So I have 5, 6 in scarlets, but they just don't do well enough for me right now to be comfortable to send them out and expect them to be okay.
Somebody like Wally, who's never kept this genus, give me 2 or 3 basics about them. Wally, if you're really interested in Marinella, here's what you have to do. Tell me what I have to do.
If you're really interested, you'd have to buy more than 5.
Good. Well,
so 10 to 15 at least.
Yep.
And you'd have to be able to and be available to check on them consistently. for the
Okay.
first few months. So like every other day. I have a big issue too because I've heard that people keep them with foggers and all sorts of random stuff. I kept them for well over a year before anything major happened, and I got over 100 babies out of them. They were thriving. And so it's kind of like when someone wants Marilynella, I just kind of go, you know, in a way, because it's like if I sell you these
Uh,
6 to 12, if you can't afford 12, I have to sell you 6. And then if they die off, then I feel bad as a human.
yep. Yep.
And so I said this to someone the other night. I said, I almost feel like Marilynella were never supposed to be in bins. And so the goal in eventually I'm probably not going to keep as many. I'm going to keep the scarlets, the bright ones, you know, and I'm going to keep the lavas and the black holes and the ones I currently have, but I'm not going to try to really go out of my way to get any new types.
You mentioned buy more than 6. Agree with that with any really isopod. You said check on them all the time, but what am I checking for? And you haven't said anything about temperatures or humidity. Kind of
Yeah,
fill me in on
I'm
those.
sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right. I want to make sure that Wally, who wants to get some, understands what it takes.
So my room, for instance, I don't allow them to go over 72.
Okay. Cool.
So my room gets hot sometimes, and I'll run in here and go, oh my gosh, and I got to pull 5 or 6 bins out of here and run them to my bedroom because that's where it's controlled. So now I just leave them in there. So I would say above 72, they start dying. And then I keep the soil damp, not wet. I just keep the entire soil damp.
Rubber ducky wet? Rubber ducky moistish about?
Maybe a little bit less than rubber duckies, because I'm like a swamp.
Okay.
And then I give them like lichen sticks that are kind of angled so that they're not touching the ground. I'll show you right now. This is my ember bee bin. Hold on. And so, hold on. You know what? Let me do it this way. I have it where these guys this is the bin from Hobby Lobby.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so they have sticks they can climb on, and then bark flats down there. And I keep the soil below the top layer damp by pouring down a side. And so what you see is you see the soil is dry up top, but it's damp underneath.
Yeah.
And so they're just very tricky, and I keep this right over my air exchange vent so that they're always have air circulating. Oh, there's one way down there in the front. They don't really come out all that much. I haven't really kept ember bees have kind of been my arch nemesis of Marilynella for a very long time. I started with 8. I had 7 males and 1 female.
Oh no!
And it was all downhill from there. So now I've got more, and so now I'm trying again. I believe there are some babies in here, but I have it so like cluttered down there. I can never tell what's in there until they get old enough.
I thought we had a question coming up here about Marinella, but I'm going to jump on this one real quick here. This is a good question because I had the same question. You mentioned that you give isopods a breeding break. I think it was with the scarlets. You had mentioned that you gave them a break. What is a breeding break? Now for geckos, I shut off the heat and I cool geckos from the mid 70s down to in the low 60s, and that shuts everything down. But I go through a control. What is giving isopods a breeding break? What does that mean?
It just means I don't pull from the bin. So it's just a seller standpoint. I just don't pull any new pods from that bin from March until November-ish.
It's not like it, and I think that your question it was in my
Yeah.
mind. So how do you stop them from breeding? You're not stopping them from
No.
breeding. You're just not selling
Yeah.
them. It's like let's build up the inventory for a lack of a better
Yeah.
word.
I've noticed with Marilynella when you pull pods, it's almost like they don't like their family members leaving. It's the oddest thing I've ever encountered with pods. And so a breeding break is just a seller's term for they're just not selling any right now.
Gotcha. Makes sense. What I've got to look around my camera here. Sorry. What is your very favorite isopod, and what is your most frustrating isopod? Maybe you already answered the second part.
My favorite is the Cubaris bumblebees. They are adorable. They have the cutest little faces and like a little tiny crown. It almost looks like it's cute. My most frustrating are my Pakchongs. I just wish that they would get it together. I don't know why. I have bred some of the hardest to breed pods, and they didn't give me half the trouble that Pakchongs do. No clue.
Weird.
No clue why either. Like every time I get a colony, I'll go in there and there'll be another one dead in there. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? I didn't even do anything to y'all.
Everybody watching right now, put in your favorite isopod. I want to find out what everybody's favorite isopod. If you don't keep isopods, if you've gone onto isopod sites, tell me which ones
millipede.
are. Or millipede. Yeah. Let's do that. Megan is asking, what about vertical space? I think you kind of showed that a little bit. I found I see a lot more active pods after ditching the sole cork bark hides. Has anyone tried this or have experience?
Yeah, for sure. I have those ember bees, and I see them out a lot more than I ever had. And then I have some. Yeah, okay. And I give them stuff to climb on, those sticks. And so which I get those from Etsy too. The lichen sticks, I guess they're called. But you definitely will see them more if you have more of a vertical space, and more when they have more babies too. You're not going to necessarily see them when you have 6 in there, but when you have 20 different babies running around, you're going to really see them once their numbers, climb.
Do they, for the lichen sticks, do they eat the lichen? Do you have to replace? Yeah, I kind of figured.
So when I started keeping rare pods, I wanted to find how could I produce the same environment that they're either in, or what do the pods around me, what do they like? And when I ran across lichen, I kind of gave it to a few of them, and some of them stripped it clean of lichen. And so when that happened, I just started tossing sticks in bins. And so I actually rarely use bark flats anymore. I just use mainly lichen sticks because it gives them a food source and they hang off of them. That's what my durian are on, is lichen sticks.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, I love.
A lot of good answers here. Panda Kings. I've always wanted an African giant millipede. Anthony saying cappuccinos. Gastroys love lichen. Marcy is saying gastroy. Here we go. Here's a really good question. Julie is asking, do you do anything to lichen before putting it into your bins?
I don't, but I learned a very hard lesson when I did that. So I get them from Forest Flora, her name is, and I can give you that link later too.
Yeah, please do.
Her box is like $25, shipping included, and she stuffs the boxes. And she told me that if you put in the comments when you order it, like IsoRare Pod sent you, she'll make sure, like she's been great. But so one day I threw lichen in a bin, and I walked away, and the next day I came back and I had an outbreak of ants in there. And so she doesn't treat them. So now what I do is I just throw the whole box in my deep freezer. And so,
really?
Yeah, I just throw the whole box in the deep freezer. And so whatever's in there within 48 hours is gone. And I don't have to worry about it. I feel like heat treating stuff kills the good stuff.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of heating. We did it once or twice, and it's, there's a little danger there, but more importantly, it feels like I'm sterilizing everything, and I kind of have the feeling that
Yeah.
that's the worst thing you can do to. Okay, here's a completely sterile environment. Good luck with that,
Yeah.
Isopod. It
Right.
feels more natural. So what we'll do is we'll put our stuff in. I've said this over again, but we put our stuff in black bags and let it sit out in the sun for a little bit. That cooks it, to a certain point. Now, having said that, I have brought in stuff and not had it in the bags long enough. I went into one of my. I'm going to tell the story. I went into one of my Hoffman Segai enclosures. And like you said, I don't. For the ones that I really, really want to keep, I don't have just one. I might have 2 or 3 enclosures for them. I went into one of my Hoffman Segai, and I thought I had maybe 40 or 50 in here. Now it looks like there's 20. And a couple weeks later, now there's only 10. Something's going on. Maybe I should change out the substrate. And I'm starting to dig. Those brown centipedes that are about this long? They're very fast. It was flipping loaded with them. It was. I bet you I pulled 100 out of this bin, and I never saw them. Never saw them. I'm lifting and looking for me, and they were just chomping on the Hoffman Segai. So, you never know. So, obviously, don't bring stuff in and throw it in a bin right away. You never know what an ants are even. Well, at least the same could be the same degree of.
Well,
badness.
and it was my green spot bin,
Oh.
and those are like, I have tons of green spots now, but I've kind of delayed on sending or putting any out for available because I want to offer them in 10 counts. I feel like they do better in 10 counts.
No.
And I went in there that next morning, and it was like just these big red ants. And I don't know if they were fire ants from here or what, but I literally went through that bin in like 3 minutes and pulled every green spot I could find out.
Oh.
And it was an experience because I did not expect it.
Ouch. It's such a surprise too. It's like, throw it all out, burn it with fire. Cecilia is saying 200 degrees in the oven for 3 hours. Now, after my rant about not cooking anything, Cecilia, sorry about that. Hey, again, if it works for you, cool. It just doesn't work for us here.
Yeah, I would, so I'll say this. If you have a deep freezer or a stand-up freezer that's big enough to put whatever you're doing into it, that is going to work far better for you than heat treating anything you're giving your pods, because when you're heat treating it, you're removing a lot of those nutrients that are good for them. A lot of them. So like my pill millipede bins, the ones that I have breeding, I didn't sanitize anything I put in there because of the gut biome issues that people claim, which I don't believe has anything to do with it anymore. So I just put everything in there raw, and I haven't had an issue, but I don't recommend it. Obviously, I did it because I kind of, had to do it that way. But deep freezer for sure.
It's one of those things that when you don't have a problem, you look at it and say, I don't know what everybody's talking about, freezing and cooking and black bags and all. I've never had a problem. Then you have the problem one time, and it's like, oh my God. Let me look at Wally's live where he was talking to Kim, and how were they treating? And
I just shove it in the deep freezer for 24 to 48 hours, and it holds a lot more of the nutrients they need, and it's quicker, faster, and you're not spending more money because it's already plugged in.
There you go. Easy peasy. Somebody wants to know about your gnat swatter. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand.
So I was complaining one day to my husband, and I said, man, these gnats are driving me insane. Like, I'm going to go crazy. Maybe a week later, I get he gets this box in the mail, and he brings it to me, and he goes, I got you something. And I open it up, and it's one of those zappers, but it's made for gnats.
Okay.
Oh.
And so you plug it in and you charge it, and it sounds like gunshots are going off. And it
Cool.
petrifies my dog. But I posted a video on my Facebook, and everybody was dying because it is so loud. But it does the job. I'll show it to you. I actually have it.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get it to go off. So it sits on. Oh no, it's not charged. So it sits
Oh my
on
gosh.
charge, and then you can take it and go like this, and it'll go. Yeah.
Interesting.
Now,
Yeah.
if you took it and used it on a person, would it make the same sound? No. Have you tried?
What is wrong with
know.
you?
I don't have anyone I'd want to do that to. I don't think.
Come here, Zero. Zero, come here. Come here,
not
boy.
That's
Come
not
here,
a
boy.
person. Oh my God, you are
No, I wouldn't
horrible.
do that.
Oh, but no,
Uh.
it's great. It has a light, it attracts them and everything. It's amazing.
Very cool. Well, that was nice of somebody. Do you use mushrooms at all for feeding?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
We
I
used to.
I
Our
use-
mushroom collector didn't bring them anymore.
Yeah, we had a mushroom collector, Angie, that doesn't bring them anymore to us.
Well, yeah, I do feed. I actually have, on occasion, this is what my buddy makes me. Once a year, I have this, roughly, give or take, and it's got the list of stuff in there. But it's a lot of different types of mushrooms, and they love like lion's mane, chaga, chicken of the wood, reishi. But I don't. It's like adding it into it. He puts bee pollen in it, so I don't have to feed bee pollen too. But I don't always have this because he doesn't always make it for me.
I'm
Sorry, LOL, she says.
yeah. It's all right, Angie. We know you're busy too.
Just teasing you.
No,
I'm just-
they do love it, but it depends. Some won't even touch them, but some will, and so it just depends on the pod, I guess, what they
I'm
want.
looking- yeah, exactly. And I made the comment earlier about 100 foods people are asking questions about. But mushrooms are natural. I mean, they're right there. They're right there
Yeah.
with the isopods. So why wouldn't they dry up and fall down to the ground and the isopods eat them? That makes more sense to me, something natural like that. Somebody was asking, can I feed raw hamburger to my isopods? I'm trying to think of the weird kind of different. Somebody was talking about a chicken leg. I have a chicken. Yeah, I know. So, okay.
Some people, so I've seen that some people, like if they put takeout in the fridge and they don't eat it all, or it goes bad before, but it's kind of in that intermediate stage where it may be bad, it might not, but you don't want to change your life on it, they'll give it to them. And that's fine. I just don't. I give them bee pollen. On rare occasions, I have like a mix like that my buddy gives me, or I get mushrooms myself from our woods in the back, and they absolutely love mushrooms. They do, but it's not a necessity. It's like a treat to them. That's what I would say. It's like they would stumble across a mushroom every now and again in the wild, sort of thing. But it's not like you don't even have to feed them a supplemental food, but it helps production and it helps being healthy. So that's why you would.
There's the long-term commitment to do you want your animals to survive? And isopods will absolutely survive on leaves and fish food flakes. Or do you want them to thrive and reproduce the best that you can? And we're not talking about power feeding or anything. We're just talking about making that next step. And I think that's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, if you forget or you run out of something, you don't have to like rush. Oh my gosh, I got to feed them. No, they have leaves in there for a reason. That's what they're there for. They're not going to starve while you wait for that shipment to come in.
I don't have many tough questions, and I'm begging you, Kim, if this is a hard question, let's move on, because there are certain things. If somebody asks me about geckos, and I'm trying to think of something that I wouldn't answer, but there might be some things, and I will say it's in your absolute right not to say anything about this, but the question came up and I want to throw it out there. Do you deal with a lot of imports? Now, we can talk about permits and crap like that. And do you need permits? Do you not need them?
Yeah.
I don't, that's not the important thing with this conversation. And really, the general education of isopods is really what our focus is on here. So if you want to get into this, that's cool. If you don't, that's cool too.
Yeah, I've already told Anthony this, that I don't deal with imports.
Cool.
I'm like I said, Wally, I'm an open book. I've told everybody everything from the very beginning, whether or not that whatever you want to believe or deal with or whatever, that's up to you. I have my shipping permits for in the states. Every state that I can ship to, I ship to, and I have those permits. Absolutely. I don't deal with any imports. I don't import anything myself that's out of the country because I don't have the permits for it.
There you go.
I am not going to import something and brown box it and cause a possibility for me never to get international packages in, because I have people like family in Germany and stuff like that I don't want to not be able to get their package because I decided that I wanted to try to get a pod in the States. Every pod that I get, every pod that I have is from someone in the United States. I don't care how they get it. That's not my business.
Perfect.
No one should feel comfortable asking anyone where you get your pods from. Unless, in the way I mean that is like, if someone says, hey, I see you got that pod, where'd you get it from? That's fine. But coming to a seller and saying, hey, who's your source? Where do you get your pods from? That sort of thing, just like geckos. Like, you would never give up who you buy your... Sometimes. And so for me, it's kind of hard because I don't import anything into the United States. Everything that I've gotten has been imported by someone else that has an import license.
I want to thank you for being open about it. And you made the great analogy about the geckos. I get this asked all the time. Hey, I'm interested in buying X gecko from you, but who did you get yours from? Well, I know why they're asking who I got mine from. So if I have some on my store, what I'll say is, I'm an open book, but that seems like a business type of question. I'd prefer to talk about the animal care than that. But that's kind of easy to read, and it's easy for me to do something like that. But, I think that there is some information that's kind of privy to the breeders. Once you get to, if it's business, it's business. And then I think that there are some things, that maybe aren't shared as much. But I tell you what, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, like an example. I heard someone was going around asking sellers where did they get a specific pod, like a rarer pod,
Yeah.
And it wasn't like oh, hey, where'd you get those? Like, where did they come from? No, it was, do you have the permits to import those? Where did you get those from? Well, guess what? It's none of your business on that end.
There you go. That's a great example. Great example. I have a really cool question here from Cecilia again. And I think this was asked or answered. I'm sorry, Stephanie, I think you answered this, but I'm going to put it out there. Did I put it out there? Yes, I put it out there. While gathering lichen and moss, I was eyeing pine cones. What is the verdict on that?
Stay far away from pine.
Yes. Nailed it. I think, Stephanie, if I'm not mistaken, you said the same thing.
Yeah, that's actually, I think, where I learned that from was Steph. I stay far away from pine. I wouldn't want you to learn what would happen if you gave them a pine cone.
Why not? What's wrong with pine cones? Tell me what's wrong with pine cones.
It's like toxic to pods and it kills them. There's magnolia pods. There's all different types of like lotus pods, those type of things. Yes, you'd have to buy them, but they're relatively cheap. They're like $1 for 3 or something like that. And those would far be a better option.
People think about nature again,
Mm-hmm.
walnuts. Can I feed my isopods walnuts? No. Think about what's going on. The what is it? Not toxin. Well, it's toxins, but it's not resin. It's something else with walnuts. Somebody help me in the chat. What is it with walnuts? It has a certain, I don't know.
I mean, for me, it's like there's readily available different things like bee pollen, and why go off the hidden path to something that is so like left field? Walnuts, I would never even think to give my pods walnuts, to be honest, because there's so many other things.
Absolutely. So, I'll get those questions in my mind. I'll kind of play that over, like, why don't you just go with the things that you can find? But then I'll answer and say, be aware of, be careful of. That stuff that turns the fingers brown. Absolutely. Folks, if you have a question, bring it up right now. I think I've gotten all of our starred questions here. Nanette, anything?
No, I'm looking up the walnuts.
Are you looking up walnuts? You're playing your game. You're not looking up the walnuts.
Game. I'm looking.
Okay. Laura, I think, is saying juglone. Walnut equal juglone.
Juglone. Maybe it's like
is that an Italian phrase? Juglone? I don't know.
Yeah, I wanted, while we're waiting to see if there's any further
please.
questions. I just wanted to say, number one, thank you, Wally, because we met back at 12 Days of Christmas, and my personality is a little to be desired for sometimes. Sometimes it's not, and
aren't we all?
You take me very gracefully, yes. But I just wanted to say in this live that if there's anyone that is thinking about getting into pods, if there's anyone that even wants to, I am open to giving you any and all advice, business or not, business or pods, where to get shipping supplies. I just recently put up a shipping video on how to ship a box. My DOA rates are, I don't remember the last time I had maybe like one of the extras I've sent in case of a DOA, but I don't remember the last time I've had like a DOA out of a pod count someone's bought, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But if anyone ever has any questions, if you're trading and you're unsure how to ship, or if you want to know how I set up my website, I did all of that on my own too. Please message me. I'm not a part of any of the groups. It's been a very peaceful life for me that way, and so that's the way I like to keep it. But I am always open, and everybody knows me. I will talk isopods till I'm blue in the face. You don't have to buy a pod from me to ask me a question. So I just want the community to know that there are people here that are open and receptive. I've helped many new sellers with stock, with getting started, with what do you want to do? Because you can't just do isopods nowadays. You have to pick up something else to kind of like get the interest going, type of thing. And of course, you don't have, there's never going to be like a seller that never has an issue with any of their customers. It's just unheard of. But my solid following and my solid customers and everyone that's ever dealt with me knows that I take what I do very, very seriously.
Yeah.
I would never send a pod that I don't believe is going to be healthy and thrive for you. Yep. If I go to pack one day and I'm like, ooh, that I would stop and I would not send them and I would refund you instead of sending them. That's the type of person I am. And so I know that there has been a lot of like rumors and people in the background, but I am always 100% available to anybody, anytime. I don't hold information. I love people to know exactly what they're walking into, so you have no surprises. I'll give you like suppliers of almost just about anything. But if you're asking about pods and where you got them from, you kind of know like that answer. So of course I'm not going to go there.
Yep.
But I just love this community. I love the people I've met. I absolutely adore, and I'm not going anywhere. It's going to be a long haul, and I've got a lot of exciting stuff going. So
we've seen already just a bunch of great comments in here. Gambit was on a little bit earlier. I don't know if you're still in.
Yeah, I love Gambit.
And I think there you go. And I have this on my notes, and we started talking. I didn't even get my script in my notes. It's behind me. Yeah. Here's what we should be talking about tonight.
Well, at least it wasn't a spreadsheet.
Squirrel. So the reason I'm bringing this up now that I've been diverted, the reason I'm bringing this up is because the top line was to thank you very much for your donations and making the 12 Supreme Days of Christmas what it is. Again, your gift this year, if I remember right, because we had like 500 gifts, your gift was a $400, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was like a $400 shipped rare Isopod package, right? Yeah. Did you give more than one gift? You gave 3, didn't you?
Yeah. So I did a mystery box.
Yep.
I think it was like a $200 or $300 gift card, and then I did Scarlet's. But
yes,
when I did, so long story short, that I don't even remember the name off the top of my head, but I'm still waiting for them to contact me and say that they're ready, because when I was set to ship the Scarlets, I had that crash, and so I kind of was like, oh no, I'm not sending any out. And so I gave them the option of waiting till like winter or choosing something else. And so they said that they wanted shiny gators, and so they'd message me back later. But that's the only thing left that I have to from that giveaway is from, I think the name was Catherine in the email, but I can't be sure. But I did the mystery box, which she was great. And then I did the gift card, and she was awesome too.
Outstanding. It's a special event. My biggest problem with the event is I kind of lose track of details once in a while.
Yeah.
If you want to contact the person, yeah, it is hard. At the end of the event, I start thinking about the next year's. If you want to contact the person, that's cool. If you want me to contact the person, that's cool. I try to stay out of it because you guys know what you're doing, and you guys communicate just as well as one more person in the mix. But
I'm sure. I think he sounded kind of busy, or she kind of said, so I know that they'll message me when they're ready for them. I was just kind of saying that was the only hiccup with doing the 12 Days of Christmas, and that's what the unfortunate part is it's done midwinter, so you don't know what's going to happen by March or April, and then you have to be like, oh damn. So I felt really, really bad, but
no,
they didn't want to wait, so I said, well, what do you want, man? Tell me. But I love anyone that knows me. I love doing giveaways. I love, I do drawings all the time on my Facebook. Like, I'm about to do the 2000 drawing here probably this coming week.
Oh my gosh.
And it's a you pick pod. So you pick whatever pod you want. It might land you on a reserve list, but you pick it. So I try to give ample opportunity for those in the community that would never be able to afford it.
Yeah.
And that's my goal, is to be able to, I just want to share. I never want someone to look at my stuff and be like, man, I could never have that. I want someone to be like, no, you know what? She's got it now. I will have an opportunity to have that.
I'll be selfish for just 1 second and talk about the 12 Supreme Days of Christmas. I get a lot of kickback because we don't give, the donors give such wonderful prizes like a Chihuahua Gecko. And people will contact me and say, you shouldn't do that because people that will win won't know how to keep the animal. And it's hard. It's hard because we're talking about a living animal. And we provide all kinds of care information. And I say it over and over, every single video, contact the breeder and find out. Don't enter this. Don't enter this if you don't know how to keep the animal. But what you just said, Kim, is the reason why we keep doing it, because Jimmy over there, I just said this, but truthfully, I tried to pull a weird example, but honest to goodness, we had a winner of a lychee. Somebody wanted a lychee, and we went back and forth with, oh my gosh, is this real? Because the name was kind of a little weird. And finally, what's that?
I said good night, Angie.
Good night, Angie. Finally, we made contact, and it was a good person, and the connection. And it turns out they're from Wisconsin, and we met at a show, and it's a young kid, and that he went from starting to keep one gecko, a lychee, and he runs his own table now at shows because he's gotten so involved with his dad's animals, and he's doing his own thing on half of his table. How cool is that? So to your point, somebody that's never ever kept one of these animals, now they have an opportunity to keep it. We all win for that. The whole community wins for that. So, man, this has been a whole episode where I've just stood on my soapbox. So sorry, everyone.
No, you're fine. And I think it's very important to run giveaways. I'm a firm believer in you started somewhere and now you're here. And how did you get there? You didn't just get there. Don't get me wrong. I worked extremely hard to be where I am. Like probably 3 times as hard as the normal person would have worked to get where I am. But I think it's extremely important to always remember where you came from and how you started. And so I have given away so much. Every box I give away a freebie pod, typically, or I do an extreme overcount. It's just who I am, and I'll always be that way. And I just love bringing joy. People tell me all the time their kids get their boxes and they're so excited to open them. And that just, it makes my day, because the world right now that we live in is so rough. And so for you to I'm packing your box on Tuesday and you're so excited to get it on Thursday. And that excites me, is that little piece of peace you'll have for that day. And I was able to provide that. And so I think that that's one of the main reasons why I do what I do and why I provide the pods I do at the pricing I do. You may not be able to go on my site and buy the pod of your dreams right away, but most of the time you can go on my site and reserve it in a list and you'll have it, and it's for half the price you would normally pay for it. And so I don't know. I just love being able to make people's day. It's just, like I said, we live in such a rough world.
It is. And I think if we can add, some enlightenment to people, but also some lightness to people and kind of pull us, away from some of the day-to-day rigors that we all go through, so much the better. And rigors.
I thought you said
Ritters. I appreciate you donating to the 12 Supreme Days of Christmas. Week. Yeah, I'm going to put it on Facebook as a new word.
I know. I don't know what I'm going to do this year. We're going to have to. I can't top last, so I don't. I guess I'm just going to have to be if you win, you just get what you want. No, I'm kidding.
I tell you what. I tell people all the time: don't feel committed to donating. If you do, that's a blessing. And whatever you donate is cool by me. And every year, and Nanette will attest to this. I don't want this to be a 12 Days of Christmas, show, but every year I tell Nanette, there's no way we're going to be coming anywhere flipping close to where we were last year. And every year it's like we double.
Scary.
We double every
Oh, yeah.
single year.
And this year it'll be bigger, and you guys should be proud of that, because I feel like the community really, really enjoys it, and that's what matters. Even at the end of the day, when you're so frustrated because you had a rough day of putting together spreadsheets and whatever the case is, everybody absolutely enjoys it, and I had a blast. I think that it, like, I don't know, just for anyone that doesn't know about it, you don't care what their following is. You don't care if they don't have a group and they just want to give away pods.
Yes. Yes.
You know, you have a surplus of pods at home and you're like, man, what am I going to do with these? I got to call them. But it's Christmas time. No, you don't. Message Wally. You know, you can give them away. And if you have problems with shipping, I've got a shipping video for you, you know. But
I've heard that so much. Just contact Wally. He'll take that crap.
It's a way for everyone to give back, and you don't have to, like, it gave me a lot of exposure, you know. I'm not a part of the main group, so I was able to get my name out there and let people know where I am and where to find me, all because of your 12 Days of Christmas. So it's people can use it for different types of things, however you want to, but I think it's a great opportunity for young and upcoming sellers, people that have just too many pods and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to call. No, don't do that.
Tell me two things. We're running on, usually Frank will say about this time, let's go 24 hours. I don't know where he's at right now. But we're running at the end here. We've kept you far too long. Tell me two things. Tell me, do you still have that giveaway going? And tell everybody how they can contact you. And we're going to challenge Frank to throw your link up one more time.
Yes. So I do have the next giveaway. I think I'm at like 1,950 followers on my Facebook page. So I have a giveaway at 2,000 followers, and it's a you pick pod. So you can pick it, whatever you want. I would encourage you to message me first and say, hey, you know, here's 4 or 5 that I'm looking at. I'm this experienced, or I'm not experienced at all. What should I do? I wouldn't just go on and be like, oh my gosh, I want durians, you know, that sort of thing. But so I have that giveaway at 2,000. I'm putting together a giveaway with SNJ terrariums here soon, probably for 2.5. I just couldn't get it together in time. I love
Thank you, Frank.
And then the best way to contact me is just either messaging my business page, the IsoRare Pods on Facebook, or my personal page if you're able to. I'm not sure how all that works, though. I'm not techie. But Kimberly Miller, you can reach me there too. And so that giveaway will be happening probably, I would assume, within the next week. And so I would get on there and get in there so you're on the wheel.
Get in now, folks. Get in now. Sunday.
Sometimes I do a wheel. Sometimes I hand my daughter the phone and say, hey, go, you know, just scroll in the list and pick a name. My followers know I don't just, like, it's some people want to see a wheel. It's a pain to do the wheel, so I'll do the wheel, but putting 2,000 names into a wheel, sometimes I'm just like, I just don't have the time in the day. So sometimes my daughter will pick the name randomly. But those are really, really fun, and I'm going to start bringing them back because I didn't do a 1,500 follower, I don't think. And so that's why I'm doing such a big one this time, because I think I missed the 1,500 mark somewhere.
You and I, let's talk about giveaways and making it easier. 12 Supreme Days of on the side.
Yeah.
Through the 12 Supreme Days of Christmas, we've run into some issues with complexity and trying to make it easy for the viewers and trying to make it easy for us, obviously. And there's ways around. There's apps that will help with that. So we can talk about that later.
Cool.
Kim, thank you very much for helping with the 12 Supreme Days of Christmas, donating so much. People go out to IsoRare Pods, jump into the giveaway right now. go visit. We see the site right there, right in front of you. Go. You've watched over 2 hours. Go to that site and check it out. Really cool isopods. Kim, thank you so much for being our guest tonight. Tons of information. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Thank you. And again, if anybody has any questions, I'm your girl.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll see you next week.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Good night.